Hey, what's going on, YouTube friends and family? Thank you for tuning in today. I'm your host, Tyler, and this is the Real Estate Real. Today, what I want to do is I want to set the expectations for first-time home buyers. If you are deciding to get into the process of looking for a home, I want you to feel comfortable and confident in buying the home that you want and that you're going to feel great in. You're going to be able to create a future in and all that. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it and get talking about the first-time home buyers process so I can set the expectations for you, make you feel comfortable and confident in talking around anybody about the real estate process. So, I do have to say that I did just close a home with two first-time home buyers, and the experience was super rewarding. They did have a lot of questions, but of course, all those questions came with a ton of excitement. So that's why it was super rewarding as well. But if you are going out and looking for a home and you're going to start looking for your first home, I want to give you an idea of what you should be doing to get prepared to get into that house and start looking today pretty much. So here we go. Let's jump right into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the pre-approval process. The pre-approval process is the first thing that you want to do before you start looking for a home. What it's going to do for you is it's going to determine where you want to basically be located, because it's going to determine the price range in which you could afford, so that in different areas where you may live around, the price range might be higher somewhere where you feel like you want to locate. Like for instance, let's say for example, when you're here in Sacramento, if you get approved for $550,000 home, we're probably not going to take you to El Dorado Hills, because those houses around there start around $600,000. It's just a different geographical location, and the prices are a lot more expensive over there. So what the pre-approval process will do, it will narrow down the search for you for what you could basically look for, and in what areas. It's going to give you a good determining factor, as well as how much you'll pretty much be paying for your mortgage and things like that over the next couple months. I do have to let you know that right now the interest rates on buying a home are super low. So that's why right now is somewhat a good time to buy a home. But the best time to buy a home, obviously, is when you decide yourself that is the best time for you. Because honestly, the prices are always going to fluctuate up and down, and the interest rates are going to change amongst those. So if the interest rate goes really high and the price goes really low, you're still going to be paying around the same for a mortgage price. So that is one thing I want to say to you guys. And another tip that I want to give to any first-time home buyers or any people that are going to go look for a house right away is that most realtors aren't going to want to show you any homes that if you aren't pre-approved for the process. The reason being is we don't want you to get all excited about one home and then we end up not even being able to put an offer in on that home, as well as our time is really valuable right now, and in any circumstance, so is yours, I'm assuming. So we don't want to put us in a position where we're both wasting time. So that's the first thing. First thing we want you to do is go out and get pre-approved, and then obviously I can help you do that, or any other realtor can help you do that. But before you do any steps like these, we want you to go and find a realtor. The process can be extremely daunting, and it could take a lot of time. You might not know what you're doing as well if you don't have a realtor by your side. So it's just easier for answering all the questions, and we want to be here for you as well. So the second step that I want to talk to you about is after the buyer is pre-approved by the lender, we narrow down what house you want, and your realtor should have updated you on the current conditions in the market as well. If you watch my channel before, you probably know that there are things that you could do as a buyer to make your offer more competitive. So at this time, we would want you to pretty much read over the residential purchase agreement, and your realtor should be explaining to you what fees you might want to be paying for up front to make your offer more competitive. For example, in 2021, it was a heavy seller's market. So what a lot of clients were doing, they were paying for some of the closing costs of the sellers, so that they could make their offer more competitive. And 100% honest, if I'm being 100% honest, in my certain in the certain offers that I would write during the process, I wouldn't say that buyer is going to pay for closing costs, just because in my opinion, pretty much, that during the process of the time, you want to, as a realtor, your realtor should be asking how competitive the offer is at that time. So you kind of know what you're going to have to, put down, and what the buyer is going to have to pay more for and things like that. So I wanted to set the expectations for the buyer that we could probably do this during the time that they were buying. that we could do this without, taking on those extra costs and things like that. But in some circumstances, you might have to take that extra cost because there might be 10 offers and maybe you came in really high, but there's an offer right next to you and they're doing those stipulations where they're going to take some of those things off. So what I would say about the second step is that get together with your realtor or anybody that you're with and come up with what you're going to be comfortable making an offer on and what costs that you pretty much might need to come up with up front to make your offer more competitive, things like that, as well as narrow down the searches and places that you obviously want to go and that you're going to be one that you are going to be comfortable in, so that the realtor doesn't have to do a bunch of running around and things like that and driving you to 10 different homes, so that you have to see 10 different homes. If the realtor asks a lot of questions up front about what you want in a home, don't get annoyed by it, because what we have to do is we want to narrow down the search. So pretty much the first 5 homes that we take you on, you would want to write an offer on all 5 of those. You're super excited and things like that, so that we do have a opportunity as a group to be competitive for that offer. So that's the second thing I have to be. The third thing that I want to talk about is what the inspections and appraisals are. There's a lot of contingencies during the process that I'll continue to talk about a little further, but now that you're familiar a little bit with the market and the options of what is going on, you want to find that home for your friends and family. Once you put that offer down on the home and the offer is accepted, there's going to be a bunch of contingencies that are going on during the time. The inspection contingency is one of those things. The inspection contingency is about $125 depending on the inspection. The pest inspection is $125. The roof inspection is usually $75, and the home inspection is where it gets kind of pricey. The home inspection can be anywhere between $400 and $1,000 in itself. So that's one of the bigger things that you're going to have to look for. Another thing is the loan. The loan contingency is something that you're going to have to worry about during the process as well. The loan contingency is put in place so that when you and your lender get together, you've already obviously dispersed the initial deposit. That's something that will be due within the first 3 days of getting into escrow and getting your offer accepted. After you do the initial deposit and things like that, you'll have to turn in the initial deposit, and then you get to the lending process. Once you get to the lending process, you basically, it switches from a pre-approval to an actual approval, because at this time through the escrow process, your lender should have went through the process with you and got things like tax stubs and W-2 forms and pay stubs so that they could see what your actual income is, and they could go through the process as well with you and do things like that. So that's the loan contingency. The loan contingency, all these contingencies, I do have to say, are in place so that if you decide that you can't come up with the money for the loan anymore, maybe something happened to a family member or something exigent out of your circumstances, you will be able to get that money for the initial deposit back. But after all contingencies are removed, then you normally can't get the initial deposit back, but you still have a chance, I do have to say. It's usually up to the seller at that point if all contingencies are removed. So it's the pest, roof, and home inspection, which are the big inspections during the escrow process. The pest and the home inspection and roof usually happen within about 10 to 14 days through the process. The loan contingency is going to be a little further along in the process because they have to get all the paperwork from you as a buyer and get all the income, so that they could decide and determine how much you could actually be approved for. So that's the loan contingency. The last thing that I want to talk to you about, the appraisal contingency. The appraisal contingency is done by a licensed appraiser, and what the appraiser does is he comes out and he checks the property based on that property and the stature of that property, as well as the specs of that property, the home, the number of bedrooms in the homes, the number of bathrooms, the number of square feet. He takes all that in consideration and compares those to like properties in the area so that he could get a general understanding of how much people are paying for these properties. And then he does things like that to see if what you offered for the home matches what the home is actually worth. So that's what the appraiser is going out there and doing. He's taking into consideration everything going on. And basically what he does is he mitigates the issue so that no one's being overcharged and the housing isn't just going, completely bonkers and going through the roof, because people shouldn't be paying for houses based on the price of the economy, because if that's the case, some people would be paying $1 million. And you've seen lately that pricing houses do keep going up. So that's why the appraiser pretty much is in place. But that would be one of the last things. One thing I do have to tell you about the appraisal is if the appraisal doesn't come through at the right price, then the bank, if the appraisal, basically the house appraised for less than what you offered, you will have to cover what you've covered the rest of the price that the bank won't take care of, because the bank will only loan you the amount that the house is worth. So you would have to take care of that. It's called an appraisal gap if it happened at the time, just so you're aware of that situation in the future if it ever happens to you. 4 is that after you've obviously found the home you like, put together an offer is accepted, if you agreed on the terms and the contract, you're officially in escrow for your new home, is what we kind of talked about just now. So if you want more information on the process, I do have a video on YouTube about the whole escrow process. We are kind of touching over some of the points right now for the highlight points of everything, but after your offer is accepted and all those contingencies go through, everything in place, the escrow process is pretty much finished. That's when you are officially, after the escrow process is done, your realtor will give you your keys. And that's when you're officially basically on title and record as the new homeowners. But as a first-time home buyer, like I told you about the process before, pretty much that was already there. But your realtor, what I should say about the realtor is he should be keeping you up to date on everything going up in the escrow process. But they are going to be the things that we did initially talk about already, and I have talked about in previous videos. That's the first is the initial deposit, like I told you, due within 3 days, and that's 1% of the purchase price. The second was if you didn't put any more down than 20%. If you didn't end up putting 20% down on the home, then there will be contingencies that must be removed, and those are the contingencies that we talked about. If you do put over 20% down on the home, then you can remove certain contingencies if you want to, like the roof, pest, and inspection, and the home contingency. You can remove all the contingencies you want, but what that does is it doesn't allow you to get your initial deposit back sometimes. At that point, it's kind of debatable if the seller is willing to give it back to you. So that's why we leave the contingencies in place. Normally, it makes it a more competitive offer to the seller, but that's just because they know that you're not going to pull out of the deal if you've already put that much down and you don't have any contingencies that need to be removed. It's pretty much saying that, like, I've decided that I want this house no matter what, and they're kind of selling it as is at that point. So that's just something to be aware of. Those are the contingencies as well. Those contingencies are removed at different times during the processes, which we talked about as well. But yeah, let's move on to the 5th step now. So the 5th step, like I said, the 5th thing that you want to be aware of is that after you've gone through the escrow process we kind of talked about, and the house closes, it means it's officially yours. So congratulations on court. Of course, that's the process. I'm overall making it kind of simple, but during the process it can get a little complicated at times. But we want a smooth escrow process, and that what this means is that everything closed is that all the contingencies were removed, like we talked about. You yourself or your significant other has signed the loan docs, and pretty much after you sign the loan docs, you'll send the rest of the money to escrow. At that point, when you send it to escrow, they wait, they file it, you go on record as the new owner. That's what happens, and the house is pretty much yours at that point. At this point, as a realtor, once you go on record, I would give you the key as a realtor, unless you have something like a rent back in place so that, the seller has to stay in for an extra period of time. And just so you know, during the market, it depends on if the seller wants to provide a rent back during the time or something like that. I mean, if the seller needs a rent back during the time, and it's based on the market if you want to give that rent back or if you want to charge for that rent back as well. So the negotiation terms are in your hands at that point as well if you need to do a rent back or anything like that. So that is pretty much the process of when you're getting ready to start a home of what you should do. remember to reach out to me or any other realtor that you might want to work with so that they can make the process super easier. There is a fact out there that, for sale by owner homes, only 8% of those homes actually sell. If you do decide to do something without a realtor as well. So that isn't to scare you or anything like that. Obviously, if you're a pretty savvy person, you could go out there and do your own things. But I would love for you to contact me sometimes, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and it gave you a general idea of the process of the home buying process as well. And don't forget to contact your lender and get pre-approved when you start and do all those things. And I look forward to possibly working with you in the future. But I also look forward to you getting your own house and things like that, because it's a super cool experience that I get to help people with and that you get to do for yourself. So good luck to you in your process, and thank you for tuning into this video today. This is The Real Estate Real, and I'm out of here.